You're known for being a bit of a miser, aren't you, Karl?
Yeah, thanks for that one. Yeah, I'm a bit of a tight ass when it comes to money. This is known. This is known. The term miser is often used to describe a person so adverse to the idea of spending money, they'd rather put a cobra in a chokehold than open their wallet. A fact that makes the famed British eccentric and miser, Jemmy Wood, all the more interesting, considering he once spent a considerable amount of his fortune to win a bet of £5.
So we should probably clarify the word miser to some people.
Yes, it's not commonly used, so for those people out there who don't know what it means, it's basically a person who doesn't like spending money. Think Ebenezer Scrooge, which works quite well for today because James Jemmy Wood, the guy we're talking about today, is reported inspiration for Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ah! Humbug.
He lived around the 18th century and spent most of his life in Gloucester, and he was, to put it bluntly, fucking minted. We should probably clarify what minted means. That means he was rich. Rich as balls. You're probably thinking, Karl, how rich? So I could sum it up with one statement about, Jemmy's life, and that's that when his father died, he literally inherited a bank. It's like,
Jesus.
That's as rich as it gets, and it's like, oh yeah, what's your inheritance? A bank.
Wow.
The place where money lives.
So describe this bank that he inherited.
Well, it was, as you might imagine, given his reputation for eccentricity, kind of strange, because I believe Jemmy he inherited his miserly traits from his father and his grandfather before him, basically just saved money at all costs. And in that vein, this bank shared space with a store that sold drapes to cut down on costs. So you could go in, buy some drapes, and then save some money, I guess.
So you say Jemmy doesn't like spending money, yeah?
Oh no, yeah, he hated it.
Yeah, obviously he owned a bank which gives out interest.
Yeah, it pays interest on the savings that people have. It loans out money. Well, Jemmy's bank didn't do none of this shit, and it's noted that to keep poor people away, because he hated talking to them, Jemmy didn't offer interest on any deposit in his bank, regardless of size, until after it had been in his bank for a year. And even then, did not offer it at a competitive rate. And you'd think that would kill his bank, but it didn't, because he had an unparalleled reputation in his area for spotting counterfeit money. He was so supremely confident in his ability to spot counterfeit money on site that the first thing people were greeted by when they walked into his bank to make a deposit or a withdrawal was counterfeit money that he'd nailed to the counter of previous people who tried to deposit in his bank. And do you know what that reminds me of? That classic prank of gluing a pound coin to the floor.
Yeah.
And I love that prank because there's been so many evolutions and variations of it, and I still think the best one is, I think they did it for an advert, where what they do is they put a £50 note under a car tyre, and it shows you all the people coming up and trying to get it, and no one does. And then a guy comes up with a jack and just lifts up the car and takes the 50 quid. And I forget what it was an advert for, man. It might have been a bank. It might have been a bank advert.
Probably.
But I distinctly recall it being an advert for something like that.
Well, it reminds me of that, I think it's a recent video where someone stuck basically an image of a power socket on a wall.
Oh man, that's such a dick move. I've seen those.
So someone tries to charge their phone or laptop and they're just,
They
just
put
not
in
going
airports,
in.
don't want to fuck people over.
Yeah.
The thing is though, as a prank, that's annoying, but I forget which company it was, but there was a company who sold power banks who did that thinking it would help advertise their product.
Yeah.
So obviously, and then you'd go and you go to put your thing in, notice it was fake, and then obviously you see at the bottom, buy a power bank if you want to charge your phone. But all it ended up doing was pissing people off. Oh man, I love that shit. It's such an innocent way to prank someone, just a sticker.
So with him being a miser.
Yes, a famously eccentric one at that.
There must be stories of him, ways of he saves money, stuff like that.
And one of my favourite ones is that it's reported one of Jemmy Wood's favourite pastimes, even though he was worth the modern day equivalent of millions of pounds, or several tens of $1 million maybe, to Americans watching, was travelling around local farms to steal their turnips.
What?
Because he didn't want to pay for food. The thing is, though, to put it diplomatically, Jemmy was a large man, a ferret he wasn't, and he understandably got caught several times red-handed stealing turnips, and on one occasion a farmhand was so annoyed when they caught him they beat the living shit out of him and then angrily demanded to know who the fuck he was and what he thought he was doing, to which Jemmy responded, I am the owner of this land, which he was, to which the farmer responded by beating him up again. Because they didn't believe him. So if you own the land, just go buy a fucking turnip or just like ask for one.
Yeah.
He's like, no, so they beat him up again.
Oh my God. It just doesn't make sense at all. Like, you always hear stories of billionaires not wanting to spend money, even though they've got enough of it.
Yeah, they have more than you could ever possibly spend in a lifetime, even if you were living like an idiot. Like we've talked about, Warren Buffett is a famous example. He spends like $1 a day on his breakfast. Like, and he goes to McDonald's and he goes to the drive-thru and he pays with coupons and shit like that. And he's a multi-billionaire of like a majority shareholder in Berkshire Hathaway, one of the largest investment companies on earth. I'm always reminded of a story that my mum told me about like an old man that she helped look after, who like they'd go and give him his dinner and he would like break his sandwich in half and he'd like eat half in the morning and then half in the evening, and he had one chair and he had a TV and he had like one light bulb and he'd just move it around his house, and it was the whole hog. Like, and he had like £1 million in the bank. And he just never spent anything. I guess it makes you just feel so sad. Yeah. Obviously, like, there's something in his head that means that obviously he's paranoid about losing it all, and he's not living. It's not a life. You are existing. And the sad part is obviously when that man passes away, some like nephew he'd never fucking heard of probably inherited all that money and blew through it in like a year.
So moving past that, bring it back to Jemmy.
Yeah, like, let's move past the depressing idea of old people just sitting in their houses alone, not spending the money they spent their entire life accruing, and talk about funny stories about a rich dickhead from the past. And even though Jemmy was more than wealthy enough to travel everywhere in style, or at least in a suit that did not smell like shit, he spent the majority of his time travelling everywhere in a suit that smelled like shit. And it's reported that he smelt and looked so bad that one time a passing hearse offered him a lift because they felt so bad for him.
Oh my God.
And Jemmy, never been one to pass up an opportunity for something for free, climbed into the back, checked if there was a body in the back, and upon realising there wasn't, climbed in and went to sleep and got dropped off at his house. Because you know what? It's quicker and cheaper than walking. You can't fathom it, can you?
No.
It's like, I have seen some pretty dire shit of people who have literally no money and the things they will do to get by, or to make ends meet, or to stretch what they have to the next payday. And to think, there are people out there who have the means to live like several people's lifetimes without ever having to worry about it, and they still do that.
So what's this about a £5 bet? We're seeing as he's a miser.
Yes.
Surely misers would stay clear of gambling in any kind of way.
And you're right there, and it's probably not fair to say that, this was a bet. It was a sure fucking thing, because the story goes that Mr. Jemmy Wood was travelling on a train and found himself being mocked by a better dressed man. Because as I mentioned previously, he travelled everywhere in a suit that made him look like shit. And rather than channeling his Elsa and letting it go, Jemmy spied the opportunity to make money, because Jemmy didn't gamble, he made investments. And the basic gist of it was, Jemmy said to the man, how about I bet you £5 I can walk into the first bank we see when this train stops and ask for £100,000. And if I get £100,000, you give me £5. If I don't, I give you £5, and then showed him a £5 note. And at the time, this was the equivalent of saying, I can walk into any random bank and withdraw £1 million. So the guy was, understandably, very happy to take this bet and shook Jemmy's hand. And Jemmy then presumably spent the rest of the train ride nursing a throbbing erection as he thought about the idea of making more money he was not going to spend. And when the train pulled up at the station, the gentleman escorted Jemmy to the nearest bank, where he walked inside, casually informed the cashier who he was and that he would like to withdraw £100,000. At which point he was told, we do not have that much money on hand. And which may have resulted in Jemmy losing the bet, if not for the fact that said, but we can write you a cheque for the amount. So Jemmy got a personal cheque for £100,000, showed it to the man, who stood in disbelief but paid the £5. Jemmy then took that money, turned back to the cashier and deposited it and the £100,000 into his account. And then left the guy just stood there thinking, what the fuck had gone on? And as much of an asshole this guy was, that is an absolute fucking power move, isn't Just like, it was like £100,000 in my hand. Oh, give me that fiver. I would like to deposit £100,000 and this fiver, please. And then just walks out. Like, I imagine he walked out like Michael Jackson on a giant air hockey table. It's like smooth as fucking silk.
Smooth criminal.
Straight out that door.
All over £5.
Yeah, the thing is though, like, the fact it's over £5 is what makes it so funny though, because it's such an inconsequential amount to a man that wealthy. And the fact he gave a shit and went out of his way to just end this man's career with just one perfectly executed flex as he just gets handed a cheque for £100,000 by a cashier who's presumably all kinds of confused is just amazing to me. So in the vein of Mr. Jemmy Wood withdrawing £100,000 to style and flex on a man over a £5 bet, do you, Nisha, have like any just examples of like particularly baller moves you've seen in your day-to-day dealings? Because I have one, which I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but it's the time I worked in like the champagne bar at a racecourse, and a guy came in with one of those Centurion black cards.
Yeah.
Do you have the card that lets you buy anything?
Yeah.
And I recognised it immediately because I've like wrote an article about it before, and I went, This is the black card, isn't it? He goes, oh, it's keen eye. Not many people recognise. I went, yeah, I know this. This has no limit, does it? He went, well, theoretically, yes. And I said, I hope it's not too cheeky, but what's the most expensive thing you've bought with this? And he just turned to me and went, a boat.
Oh my God.
Boat. We bought a boat with his credit card.
Jesus.
Like, oh, okay then. What do you call the boat? And he went, well, I'll give it to my wife at the time. And I went, at the time, I went, yeah, ex-wife now, so it's not my boat anymore. In that 10-second exchange, that guy's baller status just skyrocketed because it went from I bought a boat to I bought a boat as a present to I bought a boat as a present for someone I don't like anymore to I am so rich I don't have to give a fuck that I bought a boat for my ex-wife.
Jesus.
It's like so good. So have you got any examples? I'm guessing there's maybe not one that extreme, but...
No, not that extreme, but it did remind me of a time. It was at an entertainment venue I work at,
yes,
where it was Sylvester Stallone was on for the evening. So you can imagine like
it's like £500 a ticket in it. So
it was like £500 a ticket. But if you wanted like a picture with him or like a VIP meet and greet, it was like 800, 900.
And if you're dropping that kind of money, you've got a lot of like disposable income on tap.
So I was in the bar like pretty early on to like be there when the people who were doing the VIP experience came in early, and obviously there was these like guys who looked like 50 odds with like young like 20 to 30-year-old women. Obviously spent like that $2,000 already to be there, and we're just like buying prosecco and wine and stuff like that, and they were being really snobby, and I was just like,
And then you get the weekend baller who comes in his chinos and his t-shirt that's 2 sizes too small. People don't know what weekend baller is. It's like basically a guy who lives paycheck to paycheck, but on the weekend spends all his money in one go to maintain the image of a guy who has lots of money. So it's the people who go into nightclubs and they'll buy the bottle of vodka, even if it costs £120, just so they can be seen with the bottle of vodka in the club. And you see it as well. It's so funny to me that it's really obvious that all the women that are around him are just rinsing him for free drinks.
Yeah.
And they all leave. And it's like, oh man, you've just spent like whatever money you earned at your office job to have like 2 hours of feeling like a big dick G. And now you're going to wake up in the morning with a hangover and no girl. It's like, just cook up. It's easier. Buy a red pint. Idiot.